Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. Now, the work of God and the ministry of Christ has come under serious scrutiny, especially in recent times. We've had several instances where some men of God have found themselves in situations that do not really glorify Christianity as a religion and allow people to cast aspersions onto the religion of Christianity. Several instances have come up with men of God getting involved in several things. If you check my playlist, you would see some of them in there with stories of some men of God who've done some things that honestly nobody would have assumed, or most people wouldn't have assumed a man of God, so-called, could have done that. Today's true crime story is another example of such a situation, and it's about an associate pastor called Brodes Perry. And Brodes Perry originally was an associate pastor at the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. Now, this pastor on the outside seemed like an upright man, in quote. He was a leader of a congregation. But then, it turns out that he was living a double life which his wife never knew about, and unfortunately, the very day she got to know about it was the day that this pastor and his wife came face to face with the consequences of the scorn of a woman he had hurt. This case is a perfect example and a lesson for anybody following any form of religion to appreciate that the leaders or some of the leaders of these so-called religion that you might be following are just humans like yourself. In as much as they may have a calling, they are not the supreme being you are worshipping. You need to appreciate their humanity and know how to go about things with them. Now, it is very unfortunate, but this is how the case played out. Everything came to a head on the 4th of April 2019, but prior to that, the backstory has it that Pastor Brodes Perry, the associate pastor of the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, seemed to be happily married. He was with his wife, and he seemed to be happy with her. But ironically, it turns out he had a mistress. Now, the question people would ask is, how can a pastor be also having a mistress? And get this, not only was he the associate pastor, but he was also in charge of the couple's ministry. So this was a man, so-called, of God, who was in charge of a church and also in charge of the couples group within the church. So he is the one who would come to counsel couples when they have problems. He is the person who would come to counsel couples on how to be sincere with each other, how to respect their marital vows, how to love each other, how to build their family. This is the go-to person for anything that has to do with the family getting better and couples and marriages being successful and fruitful. So he's the last person anybody would suspect of getting involved in a cheating game where he would be playing his wife and having a mistress. But unfortunately, that is what he was involved in. Now, the other side of the irony of this case is the credentials of the mistress he was with. Now, the name of this mistress was Latosha Daniels. Now, Latosha Daniels is also a licensed certified social worker who also works as a qualified clinical social worker and a certified anger management specialist, and also an entrepreneur with over 14 years of experience working with individuals, children, and families. So she has also been around families. She is a certified anger management specialist, but I tell you, on the 4th of April 2019, when the scorn of her, or when her scorn came out to full blossom, there was hell to pay for Pastor Brodes Perry and his wife. all the qualifications that she has in anger management went out the window. She is the one who also counsels people on the need to exercise patience, on the need to de-escalate situations, on the need to temper whatever justice people are thinking of with mercy, on the need to be kind, on the need to be peaceful, on the need to engender peaceful collaboration. But then, when her scorn was triggered, and she screamed to the Pastor Brody that you broke my heart, Latosha Daniels was a different person altogether, and all these anger management credentials of hers went flying outside the window. Now, Latosha, in her career, provided quality behavioral and mental health services to adolescents and adults who struggled with issues related to depression, anxiety, stress, low self-esteem, anger, mood changes, and other things that have to do with various relationships. She actually had 3 academic degrees, including a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, a Master's in Social Work, again from the same university, and a doctorate in Social Work with a specialization in Criminal Justice. And she even founded a non-profit organization called Links of Love. I'm not trying to sort of tarnish what she's achieved. I'm trying to establish the fact that as we go through life, we need to appreciate the fact that we are all human. Everybody gets angry. Everybody gets angry. It's what you do with the anger that makes it something else. Personally, I have a problem with people who look at people who have gotten angry genuinely and try to judge them just because they've gotten angry. I think it's a normal thing for people to get angry, but then it comes down to what you do with the anger. Some people get angry, but they are calm and they keep a level head and they think about solutions and ways to de-escalate situations. That is good. Some people get angry and they want to just unleash hell on others. That is bad. But this is just to expatiate the fact that everybody is human and we all have our flaws, although it's not an excuse, because here you have a pastor, a so-called man of God. In his spiritual element, he is deemed to be the closest to God in his congregation. He is actually in charge of tendering to couples in the church, coaching them, mentoring them, counseling them, praying with them, fostering peace in families with them. But he is having a mistress behind his wife, and that mistress also happens to be somebody who is well versed in the arts and qualifications of anger management, has a non-governmental organization called Love Links, spreading love, helping people manage anger, stress, a whole lot of things. This is somebody would say should know better, but unfortunately it turns out that didn't happen when her scorn was triggered. But the question is, what triggered her scorn? Apparently, after they dating for some time behind the wife of Pastor Perry Brodes Perry decided that he wanted to end things with Latosha Daniels. And this is where the scorn was triggered. So, on the fateful night of 4th of April 2019, Latosha Daniels came to the house of Pastor Brodes Perry. Now, bear in mind, Latosha Daniels is actually a friend of the family. So, the wife of Pastor Brodes Perry actually knew her. So, when she came there, she let her in. The pastor's wife opened the door for the mistress to come in because she knew her. She was a friend of the family. So she didn't have any idea that she was the one her husband was cheating with. She didn't even know her husband had a mistress. My heart goes out to the wife because I believe that couples need to be true to each other. It hurts me so much when I come across cases like this where one spouse is so dedicated and the other spouse is fooling around and bringing trouble home as a result, and the trouble erupts and affects the other spouse who is actually committed to the vows. Some would say the world is an unfair place, but I think some people are just ungrateful and they just carry trouble around with them. And in that trouble, unfortunately, innocent people get caught up in the crossfire. And that is exactly what happened to the wife of Pastor Brodes Perry. Because when the mistress, Latosha Daniels, came to the apartment, she spent 30 minutes having a conversation with them. A normal conversation. It's not clear why she was actually there. But then, at the end of that 30 minutes, she got up to leave. And when they saw her to the door of their apartment, just as they were about to close the door, she turned around, forced herself in, put her hand in her purse and brought out a weapon, a firearm for that matter. And she looked at Pastor Brodes Perry and told him that he had broken her heart. From this point, she inflicted GSWs on Pastor Brodes Perry, and unfortunately, he lost his life. Now, in the course of that, his wife, being the good woman, tried intervening by coming in between her husband and the mistress. But then, Latosha Daniels' scorn was up in flames. So at this point, she inflicted a GSW on the shoulder of the pastor's wife and ordered her to get out of the way while she gets what she wants to do completed. And this was how Pastor Brodes Perry, a young and budding pastor, met his end at the hands of his mistress. And personally, I think that this is so unfortunate because imagine the impact it has on the church as a brand, on Christianity as a religion, given the fact that he is a pastor. Imagine the effect it will have on the members of the church. How are they going to take this? Obviously, there are probably some diehard members who would still want to give an excuse on behalf of the pastor, but for any level-headed person who was a member or who is a member at this point in time when this happened, the person would have to sit and ask himself where this pastor was taking them. Because if he, in all his seemingly spirituality, was cheating on his wife with a mistress, then where was he getting the scriptures he was coming to preach to you from? The ones that he would tell you, God told me to tell you. Did God really tell him that? I guess we would never know. Only God knows. And as it stands now, Latosha Daniels has also been arrested and is facing prosecution. But again, like I will say, the harm has been done. May Pastor Brodes Perry rest in peace, but I think his wife got the harsher brand of the whole thing because she has to live with this. Subscribe if you are yet to do so. Turn on the post notification. And please, share your view on this. I'll catch you on the next one.